That means Jerry Reynolds. We also have Ryan in Sacktown. Almost done with the All-Star break, thank goodness, and we get back to playing some real basketball tomorrow for the Sacramento Kings. But in a moment, Jerry Reynolds. Yes, indeed. And holy moly, Jim Bob Bowley, Jerry's still looking real good with his new computer. I mean, what a difference. Good Lord, technology. What an amazing thing. How are you, Jerry?
I'm good, and that's it. You're right. Technology, and really all it costs is money. Money solves about every problem, it seems.
Yeah, well, it doesn't solve the fact that the All-Star game is unwatchable. Technology has not helped that out. What an embarrassment for the league, Jerry.
It really is. I mean, I think it's just a total insult to basketball. As I told you earlier, I planned on trying to watch it because I wanted to see Sabonis and Fox. I mean, I know it's not a game, but after 10 minutes, I couldn't. I just couldn't. I had to turn it off. To me, it's like, if this is their idea of an all-star game, for God's sakes, get rid of it.
I saw Stan Van Gundy on Twitter. His solution is to pay players of the winning team $1 million each. And I'm like, really? Is that what the hell we've gotten down to? You're telling me that all-stars selected by the peers, this honor bestowed on them, now have to be paid $1 million to go out and play? Screw that. That's an insult to me. That would turn me off immensely. What's your thoughts on that?
Oh, I wouldn't do that. I recall when it was competitive back in the 80s and early 90s, and East versus West meant something, and team. But I agree with Michael Wilbon had a suggestion some time ago, and I'm totally on board with it. Select a team of the best American-born players versus the best foreign-born players, and I think that would be competitive, because you put Embiid and Jokic and Antetokounmpo and Doncic and Shai Gilgeous-Alexander and several others out there. First of all, I think it'd be the better team. I think they'd be better than the American-born team. And,
I agree.
But I think that I think the European in particular, they'd take some pride in that, which we haven't seen thus far. But this idea of all-star, and you choose up like you're on a YMCA or outside court.
It's a joke.
All that stuff. It's just ridiculous.
It's Adam Silver should be embarrassed. I mean, he really should. He should be embarrassed.
He should be. The TV ratings were, I think, the lowest of all time for an all-star game.
Good.
Which shows you that basketball fans, showed what they thought of it.
I was watching Tiger Woods play down golf in LA. I mean, I really was. I was watching the golf. Obviously, he went out early on Saturday, but I was watching the golf. The fact that I have to watch the PGA tells you, well, again, I was watching golf. I'll just leave it at that.
Yeah, well, I was too. And of course, I love watching golf. And, John Rahm really is the number one player in the world today. But they had the top guys in there, and Tiger, you love seeing Tiger back.
Yeah.
The PGA for the most part is doing most things right, and the NBA isn't.
I think you're Michael Wilbon's right. I still think that would make it better. And Jerry, we keep on talking about this, and I keep on patting you on the back because it's made the most sense. The NBA game is in need of repair, in my opinion, and the games now are predicated pretty much on one thing and one thing only. The team that shoots the ball the best from three is going to win. And that's not the way the game of basketball is meant to be played.
No, I mean, really, I think it's a case now that we all love the three-point shot, but we'd like it more if it meant more and wasn't so many of them. It's become cheapened. And like, we've talked about many times, and I've been saying for years, get rid of the corner three.
Yep.
I think put a little more physicality back in the game. I mean, I like offense, but I don't need to see 140 to 130 games every night either. Well, I think it's really cheapened the game a little bit. I'm not most fans like offense better than defense, but at some point you'd kind of like to think you have to earn your baskets, and so many are just gimmies now.
Yeah. Speaking of earning, 2 seasons ago, Nate McMillan goes into Atlanta, completely turns the team around, okay? Goes to the Eastern Conference Finals, and here we are, and now he's fired. Now, there's always things that are going on behind the scenes that we're not privy to. You know that better than anybody. But I mean, it's just unbelievable. It just seems like there's some issues with Trae Young and some of the other things going on in that locker room. But Nate McMillan, again, he gets there, does a phenomenal job, and now here he is, and he's fired.
Yeah, I mean, they were dead in the water. He takes them over. They get to the Eastern Finals. The next year, they start slow, but they get in the playoffs, and they probably would have made. My guess is if they left him alone, they'd have made the playoffs again. But I mean, they've basically demoted the general manager Travis Schlenk earlier, and so it's a case of the new GM basically wanting his own coach. That's really what it comes down to. I mean, Nate McMillan's one of the best coaches in this league and has been for a number of years. And like I say, I'm with you. I think that there's some issues with Trae Young and maybe John Collins and a couple of guys that just isn't flowing as smoothly as it should, because that's a very talented team. They certainly should be one of the top five probably in the East.
Before we start talking about the Kings, I want to talk to you about a few things going on in the NBA. It's a small sample size, but Kyrie Irving and Luka Doncic, they have not won a game yet. Okay. The first game they played together was in Sacramento, and then they lost 2 other games leading up to the All-Star break. I know it's a really small sample size. Do you think that's going to start working, or could you see that being problematic?
I'd like for it to be problematic, but I think it's going to work.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I think they're so talented, and and they've got enough, fill-in guys around those two, and I think Kyrie will do what it's necessary to make it work. For the rest of the season. Now,
Yeah.
I wouldn't want to bet the farm on it on anything going forward, but I think the rest of the season, yeah, I think if as a Kings fan, I would be a little worried about the Dallas Mavericks, because I think they have the easiest schedule going forward, and so that's a concern.
I would be worried about the Phoenix Suns, who beat the Kings even without Kevin Durant. And when Durant comes back, that's going to be an issue. I'd be concerned about the Clippers, but I wanted to ask your opinion. I mean, to me, it's about, can they get their guys on the court? And now they add Russell Westbrook. What do you think his role could be with that team?
That's a great question. My sense is that it'll probably work better for them than it did for the Lakers, because he'll want it to and needs for it to. And then, of course, I think playing with Kawhi and Paul George are guys he's a little bit more familiar with, especially Paul George. Yeah, I'd be really. I think if I'm Denver, the Clippers are the team I'm really scared of, because if they can stay healthy, they're capable. I think every bit as much as Phoenix. And I'm like you. You got to wait and see Durant healthy and playing
Yeah,
before you can make determinations. But they're pretty darn good without Durant. So
that's right. They are. They've
you
been
know,
playing very well. They're playing very
yeah.
well. Now they did lose their last game before the All-Star break, but they've been playing very well. So, and the Kings have a very difficult schedule starting tomorrow with Portland, who always seems to give them fits. Then it's at LA to play the Clippers the next night, and then 2 games against Shea Gilgeous-Alexander and Oklahoma City in OKC. He's a really fascinating player, isn't he, Shea Gilgeous-Alexander? And I wonder what it would be like, Jerry, if he played on a big stage like Madison Square Garden or some of the bigger markets. He is really a fun player to watch.
He is, and he's really one of the best players in the league. I've watched him quite a bit. I mean, he's starting to get some recognition, but obviously Oklahoma City is not very good, even though they're winning more than they have in a while, and he's the reason.
Yes.
He is the reason. But but your question's a good one. I suspect he would do very well. I mean, I think you put him in a, with the Phoenix Suns or the Golden State Warriors or wherever it
Oh boy.
is.
Oh boy.
But I mean, I think he's, with Holmgren being injured and be available next year, I think that's a franchise that's on the right path. I really do.
I'll tell you this. This is a very interesting question because I really like Mike Conley with Minnesota. I think he's a stabilizing force. I think he's a player that is going to really help them here coming down the stretch.
Well, I do too. I mean, I think he's exactly what they needed because
Yep.
he'll fit better with Edwards. He'll fit better with Gobert and Carl Anthony Towns when he comes back. And conversely, I actually think D'Angelo Russell will be better for the Lakers because he can really shoot. If he has to get his shot, I'm just never been a total fan of him, but I'm a fan of his ability to shoot open shots, and I think he'll get a lot of them there.
All right, so let's get to the Kings now. 25 games starting tomorrow against Portland. Their schedule is brutal, and we keep on saying this, and we don't want to jinx anything. They still have not had a serious injury. And again, Sabonis' injury is not serious because it didn't cost them any games other than one. So that doesn't count. We're talking about games missed due to injury, and knock on wood, because with the schedule as difficult it is, that is the one thing that could derail this whole season right now.
Really is. I mean, I think it's a team, the Kings, that they can absorb injuries to anybody other than Fox and Sabonis.
Yep.
I mean, there's enough depth there that over a 5-10 game stretch that they'd be fine. And for 1 or 2 games, they could get by without Fox or Sabonis, but that's it. And so they've been healthy. They got to stay healthy. I've looked at the schedule. I'll say this: the only good news about the schedule is that the Suns and the Clippers have almost an equally bad schedule, tough schedule.
Yep.
They're with the toughest. The bad news for the Kings is the Mavericks and the Pelicans have the easiest schedules. So, that's why it'll make it a lot of fun going down the stretch. And, the Kings got to stay healthy and really win home games.
All right. Yes, the Malik Monk is back at practice, and he's fine, and he'll be available for tomorrow. All right, Ryan in Sacktown is with us as well. And Ryan and I recorded a podcast yesterday, and we went over the schedule. I've got the Kings going 11-14 in their final 25 games. Ryan and I actually were pretty similar on most of our picks. So, Ryan, we just talked about the other teams in the West. We talk about the additions. Durant will be coming to Phoenix soon. Jerry talked about Dallas. We talk about Mike Conley. We talk about Russell Westbrook. I mean, there's maybe 3 easy games. When I say easy, I'm talking about games that you look at like San Antonio. We consider that, a game that you absolutely have to win. There aren't many of those games on the Kings schedule, Rhino.
No, there's not. And there are not really many of those games close together. They're just sprinkled in against some of the tough teams. The Kings open up with 7 games against the Western Conference. So right out of the gate, like you said, Grant, there's no room for them to struggle whatsoever. If they hit that ground running and don't do well with the first 4 games, they could be in for a long stretch. Not good stretch.
Yeah, we got Damian Lillard tomorrow, then at the Clippers the next night, and then 2 games against Shai Gilgeous-Alexander in Oklahoma City, and then come home and play the Clippers again. So, again, the one thing, Jerry, and I don't know if you are a believer in this, but I mean, assuming this team makes the playoffs, and they really should, barring a catastrophe at Fox or Sabonis, they're going to be ready. I mean, these are truly like playoff type games for not only the Kings, but all the teams in the West right now.
Oh, absolutely. It's really it's go time now. I mean, really 20 some games left. I mean, it's amazing. People talk about second half. So it's a 25% of the season left. And so,
Yep.
Everybody's kind of in the same boat. And I kind of had the schedule probably a little more optimistic than you guys. That was, I think, 12-13. So, but I mean, I think that would keep them in the top 6. I'm
I agree.
not sure of that, and that, to me, that really needs to be their goal. I mean, your goal is to be first, but I mean, realistically, with the schedule and the talent available now in the West, I think if they could stay in the top 6, it'd just be an amazing year. It'd be an amazing year if they're in
Yep.
the top 8, really. But
Yep.
considering there's that, but boy, a long way to go, and there's some real potholes out there that could derail them.
Well, we just talked about the pothole start right this weekend with the back-to-back coming up. It's interesting. We talk about what we look at as successful. It's and I'm looking at this right now, but the difference in this year compared to years past. If the Kings finish with 45 wins, that would have put them at the bottom of the playoff bracket in the West in the last 5 years. But you can get in now. My point is the West, because of all of the injuries, is not as strong record-wise. You don't need as many wins this year to be in the top 6 compared to the last 5 years. We see this happens all the time. Jerry, it wasn't too long ago. I think if you had 48 wins, you didn't even make a top 8 spot in the West. If you win 48 wins now, you'll probably be a top 4 seed. It's a big difference this year.
Yeah, big difference. And, and you're not going to have probably any teams winning 60 games, where you almost always had 2 teams, in the East and West would win 60 or more. And so, but your point is exactly right. It's, I think due to injuries, due to load management, due to sore toes, whatever. I think that's kind of changed things a little bit.
Yeah, I don't agree with Sea-Dog. I don't think the Kings are going 3-1 in their next 4 games. I hope hope I'm wrong, but I don't. Again, Portland at the Clippers and 2 games at Oklahoma City. If I'm the Kings right now, I would take 2-2 and just stay at home. Personally, I would take that in a heartbeat, Ryan.
Yeah, 2-2 is the way they got to go. I mean, you look at the Kings; it's pretty much 500 basketball from here on out. I got them a little more optimistic, 13-12. Granted, they are playing better competition this last 25 games. Opponents' winning percentage projected is 0.52 against the Kings. So 50%. Let's do it every single night if that's what they need to do.
Jerry, the reason why I picked the Kings to go 11-14 is based on what I've seen leading up to the All-Star break. I'm just not convinced that they're able to play consistently enough with the schedule upcoming to win more than they lose in the final 25 games. I just see still patterns of issues that I see as red flags. They have not been shooting the 3 ball well for a period of time, okay? And what does this team fall back on when they're not making threes? They don't really have anything to fall back on. Jerry, you said this a month or so ago, and I think you were spot on. They're only going to win if they can outscore teams, and that means just go up and down the court, use Fox, Sabonis. They don't have the ability to stop anybody on the other side of the floor. They don't really have the ability to do other things like rebound well. They're only going to win, Jerry, if they're making threes, and I haven't seen that consistent enough for me to put them with 13 or 14 wins in these 25.
Yeah, and other teams basically figured that out as well. And so that's why it's getting a little tougher. I've had my own thoughts on this, and I've kind of espoused them in some different scenarios. But to me, they're not likely to get much better defensively. I think playing more zone would help them, but still it'd be minimal. My opinion, if Coach Brown asked me, and I wouldn't expect him to, but I think that it's shorten the rotation. Play Trey Lyles more, Metu less, play Terrence Davis more, probably Davion Mitchell less. I love Mitchell, but I think you're down the home stretch. I don't think this means that Mitchell can't be a really good player in this league, but I think right now you're trying to get your best offensive players on the floor as many minutes as you can, because as you pointed out, hey, you're going to have to outscore people.
This question from Sea-Dog, I would absolutely consider the season a success. If this team finishes 7-10 and wins the play-in tournament and gets into the playoffs, yeah, to me, that's a success. What about you guys?
I won.
Yeah, go ahead, Rhino.
Yeah, I absolutely think it's a success. Certainly, I think there'd be a little bit of a letdown because we've seen a 3 in front of the Kings' name in the standings for the last 15 games. But it's still, the playoffs. They are playing a 7-game series. So absolutely.
Well, I'm the same way. I mean, if they get in the playoffs,
Yes.
now preferably they're in the top 8. But as long as if they're 9 and get it and win and get in the playoff, because that was the goal start of the year, and so to me, that's it. Get in the playoffs.
Yeah, and if they finish in the top 6, they don't have to worry about the play-in. And I got to tell you right now, the play-in is not a position you want to be in with the Warriors in the play-in tournament currently and the Lakers possibly in. You do not want a single elimination game against either of those teams if they're healthy. That is not a recipe for success, Jerry.
No. I mean, the idea of going against Steph Curry and
No.
company for one game, or LeBron James and company
No.
for one game, I have, plus, I hate to say this, being the cynic and the old fart that I am, is that I even think maybe the league would like those teams.
Of course.
They would prefer they
Yeah.
win. So, okay. I just said it. I feel better.
Hey, listen, the ratings have not been good the last couple of years in the playoffs. And if you take Steph Curry and LeBron James off that stage, I can tell you right now, the ratings aren't going to be any better than they were. That is huge for the league to have those two iconic players in the postseason.
It's why the casual
this league wants those guys, and you can beat those teams. Certainly, I know that in a one game, but you're going to have to be better in that game. Simple.
Well, I'll tell you this, Cody. I got to tell you, Cody, I have a lot of respect for you and your support. But if you're not sweating them, you're the only one, okay? Because if you think that you're going to beat a Warriors team with that championship pedigree, who's healthy, okay? And that's the key. Assuming they're healthy, you're not dealing with reality, okay? You're just not dealing with reality. Because if you take the Warriors team healthy up against the Kings team healthy in a game that means moving on or going home, the Warriors are going to win the game in all likelihood, all right? Doesn't mean the Kings couldn't win, but they'll tell you right now, whether the game's in Sacramento or whether it's in San Francisco, the Kings would be the underdog in that game, all right? Just understand that. The Kings would be the underdog. All right. Come on now. Somebody wants to know what my take is on Adam Silver's load management. I think Adam Silver's turned into a puppet for the league. That's what I think he is. I think he has stopped being commissioner, and I think he is a puppet. And I think he has very little backbone. I think the league has suffered the last few years under his tutelage, and I think he needs to start running his league again. That's my opinion. Ryan, what do you think about that?
Basically, I thought Adam Silver's comments were, "We're doing nothing about load management." That was just like your placating statement right there. He does need to take a stand against it. It's just, what are you going to do? What is the penalty that is going to cause coaches to not sit the players? And that's what he has to figure out. And like you said, Grant, he's got to get more on the league side rather than the player side.
Yeah, that's really a problem for the league, and and I don't think he's addressed it at all. I think he's obviously worried about the new collective bargaining agreement that going forward here. But of course, I've always taken the stance the Players Association themselves should get involved in this, because it's hurting their product, their brand, their players. It's not doing them a service to have what's going on in this league. And so anything they could do, and they could do a lot as far as encouraging guys to play, or if you are going to miss games, miss them at home.
Yep.
For rest.
Yeah, somebody, Cody wants to see Mike Brown's game plan against the Warriors. Forget about that, okay? The games were played in the first 3 weeks of the season. Games to play back in October, November, yeah, they count towards the standings, but they don't mean anything in terms of matchups. Stop talking about how the Kings play the Warriors, Cody, in October. Doesn't matter what the hell happened in October, all right? And they played a game in November. Meaningless. The games don't mean anything. No one's going to go back and look at games played in the first 3 weeks of the season when you get to April, all right? The Warriors are different, and guess what? The Kings are a hell of a lot different. The Kings started off the season 0-4. All right. The Kings played the Warriors when they weren't nearly as good as they are now. The Warriors were not very good back then. The Warriors are starting to play better. So don't worry about what happened back then. That doesn't matter how the games went out. Doesn't matter what the score was. It's too long ago. You might get a good indication of how these teams might fare if they were to meet in the postseason, because they play. It's the last home game, not the last game. The last home game of this season is Sacramento at home against Golden State. And gentlemen, and Jerry, when I say gentlemen, I'm really talking to Ryan. I'm really thinking that could be a huge game for both teams. And Jerry, I will go back to you on this. Since I have been in Sacramento, and I would say probably since you, Jerry, in 85, I got there in 88. The Kings and the Warriors have never played a truly meaningful game because they've never been good during the same season.
No, it's been amazing. I've always said it'd just be wonderful if both were nationally competitive at the same time. That has never happened. Hopefully, obviously, the Kings are on the right track, and the Warriors certainly have been. Obviously, they've been a storied franchise. I am one that I believe the Kings could beat the Warriors. I also believe the Warriors could beat the Kings. And the only thing that scares me, and I know, Cody may not agree with this, but I'll go back to the old Rudy Tomjanovich statement with the Houston Rockets when they were in a hole. He said, "Never underestimate the heart of a champion."
Yep.
And I think that is exactly right. That they have been there and done it enough times that they would not be an easy out for anybody.
Ryan, you wouldn't want to play the Warriors, Ryan.
The Warriors are, if you want to put it into an example, they are the boxer that has got their asses kicked for 9 rounds, and you are still scared with 10 seconds left on the clock because
Yep.
they've got that knockout punch. So I think it would be an amazing series to see for the fans, obviously, but they would be scary to play, but they have to stay healthy to get there, Grant.
Of course, you never know. Steve Kerr could rest Steve Kerr and Klay Thompson and Draymond Green and Andrew Wiggins for that game. So you never know, right? There's always a chance.
This is true.
I hope that we see less of that here coming down the stretch drive. All right, let's have some fun now. I think the Kings are going to end up 6th in the West. I think the Clippers are going to pass them. I think the Suns are going to pass them. And I'm going to put a wild card. I think the Kings are a top 6 team, but I do see some blemishes. And I'm not saying other teams that are around them don't. I don't think Phoenix has any right now. I'm sorry, I don't. The Clippers, to me, I got to see them put it all together. Dallas has got issues. All the other teams, Minnesota's got issues. All the other teams we're talking about, but the Kings have issues too. I think that the Clippers are going to pass them and the Suns are going to pass them. If one other team passes them, they end up 6. I'm okay with 6. Just don't go 7, 8, 9, or 10. Ryan, where do you think they end up?
I think they end up 6 too, Grant. And the matchup I'm looking at is the Kings and the Memphis Grizzlies. Because I think you're going to have you'll have the Clippers probably at 3. I take that back. So probably Kings Clippers at 3. And that'll be a good matchup for the Kings, I actually think.
You think the Clippers will finish ahead of the Suns?
I do, yes.
Jerry, what do you think?
I probably have about the same way. I kind of think the Clippers, just because of Durant, we don't know yet. We just don't know when he's coming back and how long it'll take him to adjust. We've already seen the Clippers now starting to play quite well. Westbrook's coming in, but they played well without him. So I kind of see the Clippers, staying ahead of the Suns. But I see both passing the Kings. I do have the Kings 6th. I can't say for sure who I think might pass. I think just because I think the Kings are better than Dallas, but Dallas with the easier schedule, I give them a real chance. And the Kings, have to go there yet. So I could see that happening, but I really would be surprised if they fall any lower than 6th. I really think they can do that. They've shown a lot of toughness. They've got a guy down the stretch can go get a shot in Fox, and they got a guy that fills the stat sheet every night, and that usually gives you a chance to win.
I think a wild card in the West right now is New Orleans because we don't know about Zion Williamson. He didn't get a favorable report right before the All-Star break that he'd had a setback, and it seems to me he might not be back at all. But if he's back, it may not be until April, and then I don't know if that's enough time to get reacclimated. Another reason why I'm saying that, guys, before he went down, and Brandon Ingram too, they were the best team in the West. They were number one in the standings. So keep an eye on them if Williamson's able to get back, and that's a huge if, guys, because he always seems to be getting hurt.
Yeah, he's the difference maker. I agree. I mean, if he can get back and play 15 games for him, I mean, they could go 12-3 in those 15 for sure. They're capable of that. I mean, McCollum is one of the most underrated players in the league, and Ingram is a bucket, and Valanciunas, was hurt quite a bit as well.
He was,
and he's in his own way, he's a tough cover. So, that's a team. Just like they did last year, they could go on a run at the end if they can stay healthy.
Hey, Ryan, you remember the last time those teams played? They didn't have Valanciunas, they didn't have Ingram, they didn't have one other player, and they embarrassed the Kings in New Orleans. So
worst loss of the season, 32 points.
Yeah, amazing. Well, I think Denver's going to be the top spot, guys. I think Memphis is going to be number 2. Memphis is still really good, and when they get Steven Adams back, which is going to be very soon, they're going to be right there again. I mean, they're a really good team. The problem with Memphis, Jerry, I'm seeing some cracks from that locker room, and I've talked to some people that I know in that organization, and they are. I'm trying to think the adjective to use. They're not the most stable locker room. They got some issues going on there. So, again, I'm talking about what happened in the tunnel with John Morant and his folks and Dylan Brooks and his personality. I mean, that thing's a little bit fragile there. Very talented team, good team, but they're keep an eye on them. They're a team that's a little bit fragile.
Well, yeah, I think I agree. I mean, I think they talk too much. They got too many events on the sidelines and different things, and parents and all this other stuff. And and Ja, as gifted as he is, spends too much time worrying about other stuff. And I think we have found that Steven Adams is one of their most valuable players.
Yes,
because without him, they're vulnerable as heck.
Well, look at what's happened in the West this year with the absence of one player, okay? Think about what happened to Phoenix when Devin Booker was out of the lineup. Look at what's happened in New Orleans without Zion Williamson. You talk about certain players, and again, we understand that when you don't have a star on your team, and I've said this, and Jerry, Ryan and I, when we do our shows a couple times a week, we keep on saying this. I believe that the Kings would be the Phoenix Suns without De'Aaron Fox, would be similar to the Suns without Devin Booker. It just seems to be when Booker's not on the floor, the Suns can't win. You take De'Aaron Fox off this roster right now without a bona fide backup point guard, Jerry, I don't know if they would win 5 games, and I really mean this. I'm looking at their schedule. If you told me that Fox was going to go down, God forbid, for the rest of the season, I could see them winning only 5 or 6 games the rest of the way.
Well, the thing about Fox that is so intriguing to me, and we talked about, is that really when things get tough, as they always do in the last 4 or 5 minutes, the defense gets tougher, refs let stuff go, it gets a little more physical.
Can't guard the guy.
He can go get an easy shot for you.
Yep.
He can go get an easy shot when the offense can't get you an easy shot. And same with Booker. I mean, he's a bucket for him. Basically they know, okay, they may set – if you need to get a bucket, get Booker the ball in shooting range with a live dribble. And Suns are smart enough to do just that.
Well, the reason why nobody Sea Dog's talking about Denver is it's pretty much a foregone conclusion that they're going to be the number 1 seed. And with all the movement in the West, such as Kevin Durant and all the other moves that the team's made in the West, that's why nobody's talking about Denver. But, Denver does play defense. They do have Nikola Jokic, and they have a lot of other pieces. I think Aaron Gordon has been so good for them also. They're a legitimate team. Jerry, I'm going to start with you first. Assuming that Durant does fit in, Clippers, Westbrook, do you think Denver is the team to beat in the West, or do you think it's completely up for grabs?
I'll say this. I wish Denver was the team to beat. But I'm afraid, in my mind, the more talented teams, I honestly think Phoenix has the potential to be better. don't know they will. I mean, Denver is playing to their potential now. And of course, Coach Malone, I'd love to see them win the West, but I'm afraid Phoenix and the Clippers are actually both more talented. And I think that's a credit to Mike Malone's coaching, but as much as anything. But you know, that we'll see how it plays out. I mean, obviously they are going to be the top seed, so you're going to have to go to Denver and beat them, and that's why teams like Phoenix, with two major bucket getters, have a chance.
Rhino, what about you, buddy?
Yeah, I'm with Jerry. Denver, they're the team that you want to really be the favorite outside of the Kings because they play basketball the right way, in my opinion. But Phoenix, if they're clicking on all cylinders, there is just not a team in the West and arguably in the East that can match up with their offensive alignment or lineup. It's just hard to see, even with they have an answer somewhat for Jokic with DeAndre Ayton, right? And so it's really, really difficult to see anybody that can score with Phoenix at that level.
Want to let everybody know that Ryan and I are going to be on this weekend, halftime, post game, and most of the games will be on right here, breaking it all down. So make sure you join us. We'll be adding more programming as we get closer to the finish line. So just make sure you subscribe. If you have not already done so, hit that subscribe button. Give us a thumbs up, a like button if you can. We greatly appreciate it. I would say one thing, Jerry, and you've been with this organization from day one, even before day one when they were in Kansas City. So you've seen it all. The wait is right in front of you to be over. We can finally say, okay, it should happen this year. We should be talking playoffs. It's not there yet, but I don't know when the last time Sacramento Kings fans were this excited about a team post All-Star break. It is at a fever pitch right now.
Yeah, the only time, I was looking at some interesting stats that Dave Yeager's year actually at the 57-58 game mark was almost identical. And then, of course, it didn't work out for a lot of other reasons, schedule, some behind-the-scenes stuff, that really disrupted him and his staff and the team and all that. But that as a fan of that team, as you were, and of course we were working then, but I really thought that team at this time when they were 32-27 or whatever it was at that time, I thought they were going to make it. And they weren't as good as this team, in my opinion, but they were a lot of fun. They were well coached. They had a great staff. They had a lot of things going for them, but chemistry is one of those things, or things can get derailed, and it sure happened to that team. We're just praying and I'm confident it won't happen to this team.
Ryan?
Yeah, I don't see it happening to this team short of injury again, knock on wood. But that being said, there's a whole generation, and C-Dog brought this up, of Kings fans that have never lived that playoff atmosphere. They've lived almost losing this team and had the celebration when the team stayed. But there's just something different about it. And Grant, you hit the nail on the head. Both you and Jerry, these next 25 games are going to be that atmosphere. So I'm most excited about that for them and for all the fans that have hung in there for 16 years since the last time they were in the playoffs.
Ryan, we got a couple new twists we're going to be adding to our shows, right? We're going to add a rant, and we have some merchandise that's going to be debuting real soon, don't we, buddy?
We do. We've got our T-shirts all ready to go. So we will give you the details on those tomorrow night. Maybe we can get Mr. Reynolds in one of those for the show next week.
I guarantee if it's free, I'll be putting it on, buddy.
That's right. Let me tell you something. We'll give them two. So, when dusting needs to be done around the house, they can have, an extra shirt to use that. But listen, one thing I've learned about Jerry, okay, free. Yes, I'll take it. Yes, free, absolutely. You want to send me some? Free, absolutely. Free, absolutely. Free, yeah, absolutely.
Most of my wardrobe, it hits that free button, and that's when they put me in my final resting place. I'll have something that was free when I go.
Most of your wardrobe, with the exception of those pants you had to get on the road, right?
In Memphis.
Well, there's always some downsides, Ryan. Oh.
Ryan, if the thing that was so funny about that, I was saying to Jerry, I go, Jerry, you realize that when we're on TV, they only show us from basically the waist up, the chest up. I go, you could have just worn your jeans. Hot Rod Hundley was the longtime, great legendary announcer. And he always used to wear jeans with his cowboy boots and his, jacket, everything. That was his go-to, jeans and cowboy boots. I'm like, Jerry, you could have saved $300. You could have worn your jeans for one game and nobody would have given a darn.
Yeah, I hadn't thought of that. Here's what I know, Ryan, is between Grant and the producers and our TV crew, I guarantee you that it's shown me in my jeans. I have no doubt.
Hey, you know what? We would have shown you in your jeans and it would have been fine. But those jeans would have had $300 extra in their pocket. All right. So it would have been fine. Okay.
Well, I've been okay with that. Yeah. No, after rethinking it, I could care less. I'd be in my underwear for $300.
All right, guys. Fun show today. And we look forward to chatting with both you guys next Wednesday. And again, Ryan and I will be with you tomorrow and Friday. Halftime, post game. We're looking forward to it. Jerry, have yourself a great week, buddy.
I will. You too. I'll be watching you guys. Take care.
Thanks, Jerry.
All right, Jerry. Take care. Ryan, talk to you soon, buddy.
All right. Thanks, Grant.
All right. And we are coming to you thanks to New Works Plumbing of Sacramento, locally owned for over 20 years. New Works has a fix for you. Just go to sacserviceplumbing.com or call the number on your screen. Again, that's sacserviceplumbing.com. New Works Plumbing, they've got a fix for you. Really excited about what is ahead for our programming. And I've said this, the games to me don't mean what they used to. It's just a different perspective. And I would hope you could understand that. But I'm with you on every game. Love talking about it. Certainly, we have a lot of great things planned, and we're going to be adding programming coming up. So I really do. I mean that. I am so genuinely happy for all of you. And I've got a surprise coming up in April. So I'm looking forward to that. And I'm excited to see you all hopefully experience playoff basketball again. Because like Sea-Dog and others, of that generation, they haven't seen this team in the playoffs. And that's just wrong, right? I mean, that's ridiculous. 16 freaking years. Stop it already. Are you kidding me? 16 years. Hard to believe, isn't it? So I'm really excited. I'm really looking forward to these next 25 games. And it's not all going to be smooth sailing. All right. It's not going to be all smooth sailing. Going to have some bumps. There's going to be some games that go right down to the wire. And you're going to go, oh my God, the Kings are falling apart. And it's 25 games. You better hope no injuries. But there's no reason why this team should fall out of a top 6 spot. They really shouldn't. All right. No, I'm not coming back into the booth. All right. I didn't mean that. Okay. But we got good things coming up. All right. I'm getting ready for my show on Listen App. Thank you very much, everybody, for joining us right here on If You Don't Like That. We'll talk to you soon. Make it a good rest of your Wednesday.